part 3 of the HVAC calculation series. In this video, we're going to take all this information we gathered, or some of the information, mainly the areas of the spaces, and figure out how much ventilation air we need. How do we figure that? Well, there's a book called the International Mechanical Code, which I don't buy, but you can get it online. And if you see here, it classifies the spaces. It tells you the density. This is how many people you can put in there per 1,000 square feet, the first column. How much fresh air you need, that's outside air. How much how much air you need per person, and then how much air you need per square foot. In some cases, you also need exhaust. Rooms where there's combustion, and places that you don't condition. So that's how we do it. The first thing we do, though, is we find a similar project. I'm gonna just randomly here pick CrossFit. It's a similar project. I take the HVAC folder out of here, I copy it, and we're working on a project called specialty flooring. And I find it here, then I paste that folder here. Now, when I copy that folder, it's gonna bring some extra stuff. What I'm interested in is the Excel spreadsheet. The other stuff I'm going to delete. And we are in specialty flooring, so I'm going to change the name of this to, instead of CrossFit ventilation, I'm going to call it specialty flooring ventilation air calculations. I'm going to open it. And when that opens, it also in here at the top of the table says CrossFit ventilation air calculations. So again, I'm going to change it to specialty flooring ventilation air calculations. So here's what's happening. We have a space name, space type. This is the number from the first column of that table from the book. The second column is the area that we calculated. The third column, it automatically figures the occupancy for us. So it's a formula that I enter. You don't have to worry about that because the formula is already there. Then the CFM per person is the third column. Oops, and I closed it. That's great. Oh, the IMC, International Mechanical Code. So I'll do ventilation. I know the web page I need to be, which is this one. And then it takes me to chapter 4 that talks about ventilation. When I scroll down until I get to that table. And then here we are again. So the first column on the spreadsheet is the density outside of. This is the description of the space. This is the space type that is here on the first column, classification. So it sometimes is redundant because it's an office. I call it office spaces. Kid space, it's a daycare space. The janitor, I'll call it storage room. His and hers restrooms is a public toilet room. That's it. Storage they're called storage rooms. Some of the guys who inspect this stuff can be difficult, so I want to put as much information on here as I can. So what happens here is we got to take the spaces that we created, and we just got to go over here and start editing. Okay, so let's start with the larger building, Office 1. So I'm going to edit this, call it Office 1, and it's, of course, an office space. The occupancy load, because we didn't change the space type, doesn't change. It's 5 people per 1,000 square feet. If we go, let's go over to that website, and we scroll down to offices. Let's see if we can find it quickly. And what's funny here is that all the space types aren't in there, so sometimes you gotta guess. So we were in offices here, and office spaces. It says 5,000. I'm sorry, it says 5 per 1,000 square feet. The table says the number per 1,000 square feet. So for every 1,000 square feet of office space only, we can put 5 people. That means, in other words, for every 200 square foot of office, we can put one person in there. So that is that doesn't change. That's part of our table. And if you manage to get one of these spreadsheets close enough to your space, then you don't have to do too much editing. So 5 people per 1,000 square feet. That's what that is. The area of the office is not 86. Obviously, we know this. That was just the office of the previous project. That's the size of the office in the previous project. In our case, office 1 is 283 square feet. And watch, when I enter the 283, once I hit enter, this occupancy is going to change to 2. Remember, I said for every 200 square feet, you can put a person in there. I have this formula set to round up because you can't put 0.35 people in there. You can only put one person or two. So I always have it round up. So as soon as I hit enter, now you see that the occupancy changes. Okay. From the table, we go back and we see that office spaces is 5,000. I'm sorry, 5 people per 1,000 square feet, but it's also 5 CFM per person. That's 5 cubic feet of air, cubic feet CFM per person. So that's a number we grab from the table. And then the table also tells us that for every square foot of area, we also add 0.06 CFM of air. So we go back to the office spaces, 5 people per 1,000 square feet, 5 CFM per person, and 0.06 CFM per square feet. So what the formula or what the table does here, it gives us that room needs 27 CFM of fresh air. Okay, and that's also part of the calculations. Fresh air is air from the outside that we're going to pump into the room. Of course, when we pump hot air from the outside into a room, it's going to make it hotter, and so it makes a difference. Because we have multiple offices, what I do here is I just copy this whole row. Okay, so I click on the number, right click, copy the row, and go underneath and right click again, and one of the selections says insert copied cells. It inserts it on the top of the file I selected. So when I click insert copy, you see the office 1 is there twice. And then I had click kick space. So it inserted what I copied right on top of kid space. Of course, that's office 2 now. So I'm going to change that, the area. Now all I have to do here, because they're similar type spaces, all I got to do is change the area. So the second office, it's 159 square feet. As soon as I do that, this number is going to drop to 1. This number is going to change to something less than 27 as soon as I hit enter. So here we go. One person. These numbers don't change because we put those in from the table, but we calculated now we only need 15 CFM for that room. Okay. So I check as I go along. We have a conference room, and when you know it, of course, we don't have one in the space that I picked or in the project that I picked. So I'm gonna highlight this one. Again, I'm gonna copy the entire row. I'm gonna click on the one underneath and insert the copied cells above it. So instead of office 2, I'm gonna delete backwards in here and call it let's see. And I do that in capitals because in the plans everything's capitals. So eventually we're gonna insert this table into our project. Now, so we are in a conference room. Of course, is not an office space anymore. It has a separate category. It's called conference room. So I'm actually going to type that instead of office spaces. Conference rooms. The way it's written there. Now I'm not just repeating the name of the space. I'm actually typing in there whatever is written here. Conference rooms, office spaces, etc. The occupancy for a conference room is different than one for an office. So I'm going to come over here and look. It says a conference room because, of course, there's larger volume of people. You can get 50 people in there. See that? 50 people per 1,000 square feet. So I'm going to have to go change that in here. Right now I have 5 per 1,000, but I need to have 50. So Instead of 0.5, I have 50. I'll delete that. When I hit enter, it changes to a fraction. So here it is, 50 people per 1,000 square feet. The area is not 159. Uh, you know what? Actually, it is. Because that's the room that they made two of the same size. So the area is 159. Um, and then so it calculates here that I'm going to have 8 people in here in this conference room. Makes sense. It's a bigger. They have a table with more chairs instead of a desk for one person plus a chair for somebody who's visiting. Whatever. So let's see if the CFM per person for conference room and the CFM per square feet change. Go back to the interwebs and the conference rooms 50. We have that, and it's 5 and 0.06, just like it was in offices. So that area is good to go. We calculated that. Next, we don't have a kid space, but we'll eventually get rid of those. Next is the break room. Break room is not listed, so we'll have to try to figure out what that one is. I have a project that I did way back that I know it had a break room. It's 2016 KRA Bluffton. So I'll go to the HVAC and I'm going to open the KRA offices ventilation air calculations because I don't always remember. I remember what the project is, but I can't always remember what I called the break room. So the break room right here, I called it common areas. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this entire row from here, from another project, from another spreadsheet. I'm going to copy it here. I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet I'm working on. And instead of doing break room, instead of doing all that work, I'm just going to paste it right above it. That didn't work. So what I'm going to do, I guess you can't transfer rows from one spreadsheet to the other. I'm going to just take the information in this section here. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my original spreadsheet that I'm working on, and I'm going to just highlight this, which is where I want to paste that information, and I'm going to right click and paste. That also didn't work, but it did. Actually, there it is right there. So break room, we call it common areas. Somewhere in here in this list there's something called common areas. I played around with it. I found until something that made sense. And what's funny is, uh, even though we're talking about office spaces or whatever, you may have to find it in an education or in a correctional facility or somewhere in here. Generally, if you pick a project that's close, you don't have to play with it too much. So back to the spreadsheet. We can get rid of the KRA offices ventilation air calculations because we already plugged the information. There's really not much we can get from here because this is an office space with a restaurant. We should have found something that is a little more close to what we're working with. So break room, back to break room. It's a common area. The occupancy for that is 40 per 1,000 square feet out of the table in that book. The area of that is not 93, so we got to make sure we change that 79. Enter the occupancy. It's funny. I just actually put people in there, but let's go find what it actually says. I don't think it gives us something, and I don't even know what categories. And so we're just gonna take a minute and try and find it. Common areas. Of course, it's alphabetically, so we'll go here. It's not there. It's not in the hotels. Where would it be? Um, I probably cheated a little bit here in the common areas. I couldn't. In fact, I don't know. I mean, I didn't see it. It's probably there, and I'm just skipping right over it. But I just actually put the number of people in there instead of letting the spreadsheet calculate it. I'm gonna give this one last chance to figure it out for me. Oh boy. And I don't see it. Oh, is there more up here? Nope. And I don't see it, but I'm gonna stick with it. It hasn't failed me so far. So common areas, it's a room that's 79 square feet. Um, let's just say 4 people. And of course, when I found it before, I knew that it's 7.5 CFM per square foot. I'm sorry, cubic feet per minute of air per person. So that room is going to need 36 cubic feet per minute of fresh air ventilation. Then, then we have two bathrooms. His and hers. I'm just going to take these. I'm going to copy them both. And then right underneath break room on the janitor, I'm going to right click on it and click insert copied cells. So I'm just moving them up really. I made a copy and I moved it up. His restroom, really, they're not designated. I'm sure one's going to be his, one is going to be hers. So I'm just going to pick water closet one to be his. That's 50 square feet. Now here's the thing about restrooms. You really don't calculate the occupancy in a restroom because that person doesn't stay in there. He usually belongs somewhere else in an office or somewhere else. Uh, so the occupancy load of a restroom is zero. When you multiply that by 50, you get zero occupancy. Also, because there's no people in there, you don't have any fresh air requirements. You do, however, have some exhaust requirements, and this number comes from the number of fixtures. So every toilet, every urinal requires 75 CFM of exhaust. So I'm just going to type 75 in here, if you recall, and we can look at this. Um, each restroom only has a toilet in all three cases. So back to the spreadsheet. What happens next? Hers. So we updated the square footage for his restroom. We'll update the square footage for hers restroom, which is 54, and then we're done with that. Now the reception. Um, and here's where I kind of still back and forth whether I separate the reception from the will I separate the reception here from the sales floor or the showroom. I'm not gonna. I'm gonna combine them again. So that's 4818 plus 288, 5106. What does that say here? 6100. I don't know where they get the other 100, but let's just double check it here. Make sure I didn't make a mistake. We're gonna list this one is 4819, and we're gonna list this one, and that is 288. So 4819 plus 288 gives me 5107. I don't know where that 6100 came from, but whatever. This is how I'm going to calculate it. Of course, that's why I measure. So, office his and hers. So we need something here. Instead of janitor, we're going to call it showroom. And I am going to go to the spreadsheet and find out what space type we can call this. I just noticed here there's a little line missing. It's bothering me. So I'm going to put a line here. I don't remember where that is. This is a lesson now. This has just become a lesson on how spreadsheets are supposed to look. What I'm going to do, actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to copy this cell, and I'm going to paste it here, and hopefully with it, it brought the line. Then I'm going to make this left justified, and I think this was called space type, if I remember correctly. This space type. Now I can sleep at night. Also, the font is not right. It's not Calibri 12. It's something called yeah, what's that called? Something. You know what? It's just when you insert, because we're going to insert these in AutoCAD. So is the Revit HEB DWG font. When we insert this font into AutoCAD, it actually is legible. There's some fonts that are part of Microsoft that AutoCAD doesn't like so much. Anyways, um, back to business. Showroom. It's obviously not a storage room, it's a showroom. So we're going to find the category first. It's not public spaces, it's retail stores, right? Sales right here. So the category is sales. Showroom. I will change it to sales. Now let's plug out occupant load. Occupant load for sales is 15. See that? 15 people per 1,000 square feet. So let's go back to the spreadsheet. And so that's when I enter in decimal, 0.015. I hit enter. See, so the format, I didn't like the format. What I'm going to do is copy this, one of these cells. I'm going to copy it so it brings the format. I'm going to paste it here. And it says 50, but when I double click on it, it says 0.050. Instead, I'm going to change it to 0.015. This is where the algebra and all that math stuff that you guys didn't think it was important comes in handy. How you change a fraction into a decimal. So when I hit enter, there it is, 15 per 1,000. The area, of course, is not 268. The area of that is, we just calculated that a second ago. What was it? 5107. So 5107. Okay. Look at that, 77 people. That's a lot of people. That's a little excessive, but you could potentially have 77 people in there come Christmas time, right? How many CFM per person? Let's go back to the table here. In a sales area, 7.5 CFM per person, and let's just get the 0.12 also while we're here. 7.5 CFM per person and 0.12 CFM per square feet. So showroom, where are we? Sales. Ooh, you know what? We put this in the wrong place. We put that in that restroom. We're actually here. And this is 5107. We're gonna discard this restrooms in a minute, so no worries. That's 256 people. Let me just see if I got this right. It's not 50, it's 15. That's not right, right? So you gotta pay attention, make sure that it's 15, not 50, right? 77 people, 7.5 CFM per person, if you recall, and then 0.12, right? 0.12 was right. Sales, 15, 7.5, and 0.12. So we're good there. We have successfully calculated the ventilation air requirements for building 1. What happens now is, of course, remember we copied this from somewhere else, so we already have his and hers restroom. We really don't have storage or fitness because we have 2 buildings. I'm going to treat them separately here for the ventilation air calculations purposes. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it down here. So I have the same thing, but I'm going to label this one building 1. I'm going to label this one building 2. Okay, so in building 1, we have our office 1, office 2, conference room, break room, his and hers restroom, and the showroom. The other spaces we don't need. So I'm going to highlight the whole entire rows, all 4 rows. I'm going to right click and hit delete. Well, what will happen once I hit delete is they will disappear and everything will shift up. Here we go, boom. So now our table looks like this. The table adds the number of people, 2 plus 1 plus 8 plus 4 plus 77, the total occupancy of 92. And on the far column, it adds the ventilation air. Because I deleted and it sells, the formula freaks out. But essentially, the transfer allowed is anything. No, I'm glad I caught this. Right here, there should be 75 CFM for the Hertz restroom too. So the transfer allowed, we take all the air from the restrooms because we're allowed to bring it in a room and exhaust it out of the bathroom. So when it says transfer allowed, I'm going to plug the numbers from the restrooms and add them together. So if I double click, the formula says -1 times, and this, this is when it freaked out and it starts writing craziness. So -1 times this cell plus this cell. Essentially, it adds the 150, but then it takes it back out. So the total fresh air that we need for this one building, this last cell, it does the sum of all these columns. Like I said, it takes in the 750, then it takes it back out, and we're done. This building needs 1,317 CFM of fresh air. Very quickly, let's do building number 2, because it's only got 4 rooms. So building number 2, how does it work? Office 3, it's an office space, same occupancy load. All we have to change here is the area, which is 236. Boom, done. We can get rid of office 2. Right click, hit delete, everything shifts up. We also don't have a conference room. Let's see, delete, everything shifts up. Break room, we don't have a break room. Delete, everything shifts up. And we just have restroom. It's unisex, right? I should have called them restroom 1, restroom 2, and restroom 3, which is what I did on the paper. So let's do that. Water closet 1, water closet 2, and then water closet 3. The area, all we gotta do is change the area. The area on this one is 51. It's insignificant because we're really counting the number of fixtures, 1 fixtures, 75 per fixture. Then there's no Hearst restroom. I'm gonna change it to the storage. So there's a storage room in there. Let's see. I'm gonna go back to that KRA ventilation air calculations. I think there was a storage room in there. Let's see. There it is right there. So they're called storage rooms. Basically, because they're storage rooms, they're not really occupied, but they do require some stuff. So I'm just gonna escape out of that, highlight the whole, not the entire column, but just the fields where I'm gonna have to input stuff, paste it. It says something that I don't care to learn because in the end it puts the information in there for me. The only thing it did is it brought it at the wrong font because I copied it from somewhere else. I'll fix that in a minute. The storage rooms, the size of the storage room is 39. As soon as I change to 89 and hit enter, that number changed to 11 from whatever it was before. There's no occupancy load because there's no people in the storage room. They're transient. So it says there's 0 people. Of course, you don't bring any air per person because there's no people in there. And that's it. So another little lesson on Excel. If you click this corner right here, you select every cell, and then you can change everything. What else? Let's see. That was storage, right? Finally, we don't have a showroom here, but we have warehouse space. Warehouse. What is that called? So let's go over here. It says warehouses, see storage. So of course we gotta go scroll down. Storage, warehouses. Codes are so silly. They make you go back and forth. The storage space says go see warehouses. The warehouses call it storage. Blah blah blah. But essentially, there's no people in the storage, so there's no air for the people. But there is a requirement for CFM per square foot of 0.06. So and it was called warehouses. Okay. So that's warehouse. I'm gonna type the entire thing as it's listed on the table. Warehouses, the requirement is 0. And for some reason, when I enter that, it goes center justified. So I find one that's already 0. I'll copy that. Oops. And I screwed up. I pasted instead of copy. So I'm going to undo. So I'm going to copy this. Copy. I'm going to paste that one. So I'm going to find something that's 0 copied and then paste it there. I don't know why this spreadsheet does that. And I don't care to figure it out because I got my own quick little fix. Size of the size of the warehouse is 3,673 square feet. There's 0 requirements for 0 occupants, obviously. The CFM per person, I think there was 0.06. Let's go back and double check it though. Am I still on? Yeah, warehouse is 0.06. Warehouse 0. CFM. Oh, I'm in the wrong column here. Storage. Warehouse. CFM per person 0. I tab to move to the right. 0.06, and it gives me a number of 220. The rest, so these I'm going to delete. Delete it. So my table got a little shorter. Again, freaks out. Let's see. We got an office, we got a bathroom, we got a storage and a warehouse. Okay. So what happens? It freaks out because I deleted and added cells. But essentially, we're just going to go here. The formula is -1 times the sum of all the bathrooms. So over here is -1 times the sum of all the bathrooms, which in this case, we only have one bathroom. So I'm going to select that cell. And now that's a formula that says, no matter what it says in here, I'm going to multiply by -1 and I'm going to add it to my sum. If I add a negative number, I'm really subtracting. So 220, let's just do some quick real math. The 75 goes away, right? So it's 220 plus 11, that's 231 plus 24. It's 256. Somehow or another, there's some decimals that it carried, and when it rounded, we lost something. But matters not. So this concludes this video. It's a lot of work figuring this out, but it's just repetitive work that you got to do over and over. There's a little bit of fudge factor here on some of the spaces that aren't clear on that table what they are. So you have to find something that's similar. The rest, if you pay attention to the occupancy load that's given, make sure you get your areas right, and then the formulas, because I already punched those in, it will spit out the occupancy for you. You get the CFM per person from the table as well, and then in the CFM per square foot for the table, and it will spit out all these numbers. Make sure when the formulas freak out, we come back and get that figured out. I'm going to print this because I'm going to need that. I'm going to move to another program where we actually calculate the air conditioning loads. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to print it, and I'm going to stop this video right here.